So the descriptions of Sheol in the Book of Enoch match the Bible's descriptions. So what we must do is we must examine what Enoch says about Sheol, and then examine what particularly the New Testament says about Sheol. Because if we can't say whether Enoch came before or after the Old Testament, we can certainly say that it came before the New Testament. 1 Enoch 22, 1-4 says, "And thence I went to another place, and he showed me in the west another great and high mountain and of hard rock. And there was 4 hollow places, deep and wide and very smooth. How smooth are the hollow places, and deep and dark to look at." So in this description, we've got these 4 hollows in a great and high mountain. Then Raphael answered, one of the holy angels who was with me, and said unto me, "These hollow places have been created for this very purpose, that the spirits of the souls of the dead should assemble therein. Yea, that all the souls of the children of men should assemble here. And these places have been made to receive them till the day of their judgment, until the appointed period, till the period appointed, till the great judgment comes upon them." So the idea that the dead are gathered in Sheol, and then will be judged and cast into the pit, is an Old Testament concept. This, however, is not in the Old Testament, the idea that there's these 4 hollow places in this high mountain. So if we could then find in the New Testament confirmation of this, then that would be evidence that the book of Enoch was perhaps inspired. "I saw the spirits of the children of men who were dead, and their voice went forth to heaven and made suit." And anyone that watches the Torah portions will know that I have spoken recently about dead souls going to Sheol and the spirit returning to Yehovah, and there being that separation of soul and spirit at that point. But that's certainly not an argument that I'm going to make now. I just think that perhaps this is inaccurate in what it says for that reason. Luke 16, 22-23 says, "It came to be that the beggar died and was carried by the angels to the bosom of Abraham. And the rich man also died and was buried." So to the bosom of Abraham, or to Abraham's bosom, it's not the name of a place. It's saying to where Abraham was. We here speak of being in the Lord's bosom and other things like that in the scriptures. "While suffering torment in Hades, having lifted up his eyes," and the word Hades, every time that the Old Testament is quoted and contains the word Sheol in the Greek, it is rendered as Hades, because the Greeks don't have a word for Sheol. So rather than transliterate it, they do have a concept very similar to Sheol, which is the concept of Hades. So when we read Hades in the New Testament, it would be Sheol in Hebrew. "Having lifted up his eyes, he saw Abraham far away, and Eleazar in his bosom." So I want you to remember that Abraham is far away from where the wicked are in Sheol, according to Yeshua. 1 Enoch 26, 1-4. "And I went from thence to the middle of the earth, and I saw a blessed place in which there were trees with branches abiding and blooming." So this would suggest itself as being this blessed place that Yeshua speaks of. Okay, if we're going to say that Enoch did predate Yeshua, but if this is where Yeshua is getting this doctrine from, or he's agreeing with the doctrine of Enoch, we would have to say that this is where Abraham is. It agrees with Ezekiel 31:16. It says, "I shall make the nations shake at the sound of its fall when I bring it down to Sheol, together with those who descend into the pit. All the trees of Eden, the choice and best of Lebanon, all that drink water shall be comforted in the depths of the earth." Okay, all the trees of Eden and the best of Lebanon, comforted in the depths of the earth, which is what it said here. You come to the middle of the earth, I saw a blessed place, and there were trees with branches abiding, blooming. It doesn't specify these as the trees of Eden or anything like that, but it reflects this idea which was found in the Old Testament. "There I saw a holy mountain." Okay, so these are the sort of descriptions that you get of the New Jerusalem, and people will say this is the New Jerusalem, but we know the New Jerusalem comes down from heaven. And this doesn't say it's the New Jerusalem. It just says a holy mountain in this blessed place. Underneath the mountain to the east, there was a stream, and it flowed toward the south. And I saw toward the east another mountain higher than this, and between them a deep and narrow ravine. In it also ran a stream underneath the mountain. So I've included this because it talks about this great chasm. Yeshua talked about this great chasm, and he describes Abraham as being far away from him. The only thing that I can find that even remotely agrees with this is that between them there was a deep and narrow ravine. So it says, I saw towards the east another mountain higher than this, and we saw that these 4 deep and smooth hollows were on another mountain. It says it's in the east, and the mountain with the hollows is in the west, but let's just put that to the side for now. Maybe it's something that I don't understand, so we'll just disregard the difference in location. And it says, between the blessed place and this other mountain, there is a deep and narrow ravine. But it says Abraham is far away, but the ravine is narrow. No, but maybe it's because they're on mountains, and maybe the wicked are in these hollows on this mountain, and then by the time you come to the bottom of the mountain, and then you've gone over the land and the ravine and some land and the mountain up to where the blessed place is, maybe that is what is being described as far away. So we can't discount it based on that. But it sounds different to me. You know, a mountain in the east, a mountain in the west, where the wicked are, and there's a deep and narrow ravine. It says it's deep, and it says that it's narrow. Yeshua, in his parable, relates that there is, between the good side and the bad side, a great chasm. And maybe it's talking about its depth, because Enoch says it's deep. It says that it's narrow, and kind of what you imagine when you read this is something that is wide, a huge chasm. But maybe it's talking about its depth. Isaiah 14 verse 15 says, you're brought down to Sheol, to the sides of the pit. So Sheol is on the sides of the pit. If we are to take the deep and narrow ravine as the pit, then that would mean that this pit is deep and narrow, that Sheol is on the sides of. So far, it doesn't sound like, it doesn't immediately strike me as wow, it's in complete agreement. But I can make arguments to bring them into conformity with one another. The thing with the pit is this is the bottomless pit, and it's also the abyss. The abyss in Greek, where the demons don't want to be sent into, is the abyssal, which means literally the bottomless. The bottomless pit in Greek is the abysso phria. Okay, phria meaning pit. So it's the abyss pit, or the bottomless pit, and the abyss is the bottomless. So when it describes it as deep, that implies to me that it has a depth. But maybe it's not. Maybe when it talks about the pit being deep, it's actually speaking of the fact that it is bottomless. Maybe you can describe something bottomless as very deep. I could certainly go along with that. I'm just trying to give you the considerations here. When Sheol is on the sides of the pit, according to Enoch, there are these great mountains there with the wicked on, and this blessed place as well. And there's a deep but narrow ravine. And what's revealed in the New Testament, although you could conform it to what Enoch says, it's certainly not this striking agreement between them. So I don't think that we could use the argument that the Book of Enoch agrees with the New Testament, especially since you've got the differences of the location of the east and the west of the mountains in relation to each other, and then this ravine instead of this great chasm. They're just not strikingly similar, although I'm not discounting that they may be talking about the same thing. 1 Enoch 20:1-7 says, and I proceeded to where things were chaotic, and I saw there something horrible. I saw neither a heaven above nor a firmly founded earth, but a place chaotic and horrible. So this place is not in the places that we have described in the Bible, which are the heavens above, the earth below, and beneath the earth. They're the only places described in the Bible. So this would be a piece of doctrine that we would have to accept into our understanding of what is truth, if we are to accept this Enoch is inspired or reliable. I saw there something horrible. I saw neither a heaven nor a firmly founded earth. So this is perhaps in another dimension where there is no heaven and there's no earth. And this is the place where the angels are being punished in the Book of Enoch. I saw there 7 stars of the heaven, bound together in it like great mountains and burning with fire. Okay, stars of heaven, that is the angels, both biblically speaking and in the Book of Enoch. Then I said, for what sin are they bound, and on what account have they been cast in hither? Then said Uriel, one of the holy angels who was with me and was chief over them, and said, Enoch, why dost thou ask, and why art thou eager for the truth? Which seems like a strange question to me. But again, I'm not discounting anything based on this, or even based on the weight of all of the things that seem strange to me. I would not discount them based upon that, because I'm always ready to admit that perhaps I've misunderstood something. That's how you always approach what seems conflicting in the Bible. These are the number of the stars of heaven which have transgressed the commandment of the Lord and are bound here till 10,000 years. The time entailed by their sins are consummated. So this is an angelic prison. Okay? It says, and from thence I went to another place which was still more horrible than the former, and I saw a horrible thing, a great fire there which burned and blazed, and the place was cleft as far as the abyss. I include this primarily because it does talk about the abyss, which the scriptures talk about, but this is a different thing. Okay, this is a place where the angels are tormented. Okay, the place was cleft as far as the abyss, whatever that might mean. Being full of great descending columns of fire, neither its extent or magnitude could I see, nor could I conjecture. So the Book of Enoch introduces very much new doctrine about Sheol, the nature of Sheol, where the angels are punished. From an understanding from the Bible, if the angels are being punished in Tartarus, and according to Greek legend, Tartarus was as far below Hades as Hades was from the earth, so as far below Sheol as Sheol is from the earth. So if we take that word that Peter used, only used once in the scriptures, Tartarus, and we can take our meaning from Greek meanings, which is really not a good way to do it, because when he uses the word Sheol, he's talking about Hades, rather. He's talking about Sheol. So when he uses the word Tartarus, I wouldn't think that he got in it from a Greek understanding. I'd think it was perhaps a Hebrew word, which he had translated as Tartarus. And with the Greek concept being it's as far below Sheol is from the earth, the only place that I can reckon that to be with a biblical understanding is in the pit. But according to this, there was no earth and there was no heavens above. So it's not in the pit. So these are just my thoughts in trying to reconcile these things together to give a good argument. 1 Enoch 41, 1-2 says, and after that I saw all the secrets of the heavens and how the kingdom is divided and how the actions of men are weighed in the balance. So we've got some new doctrine that we would have to accept here from Enoch. Enoch saw all the secrets of the heavens. He saw how the actions of men are weighed in the balance in heaven. Okay? But then he says, there I saw the mansions of the elect and the mansions of the holy. And Yeshua says, doesn't he, my Father's house has many mansions. So maybe this is what he's referring to. There I saw the mansions of the elect and the mansions of the holy. Mine eyes saw there all the sinners being driven from thence, which deny the name of the Lord of spirits, and being dragged off, they could not abide because of the punishment which proceeds from the Lord of spirits. which seems troubling to me when we try to reconcile it with the Bible, the fact that there are sinners in heaven, in the mansions of the elect. Sinners that were driven off. Maybe it's talking about angels. Maybe there are angels who sin in heaven. Maybe we could reconcile it like that. But my point being here is that to make the argument that Enoch presents a similar idea of the afterlife, of Sheol, to the Bible, I would disagree. We might have to take this as new doctrine if we accept the Book of Enoch as scripture, but to make the argument we should accept it as scripture because it agrees with the Bible, factually, 1 Enoch 39:1, another thing that we need to contend with. They will come to pass in these days that the chosen and holy children will come down from the high heavens, and their offspring will become one with the Son of Men, which seemed to be a problem before. If we are to take this as to be the angels, as some suggest, then the offspring becoming one with the sons of men was formerly a problem. But if we are to take it as the chosen, the elect, when they die, they go to heaven, which I would suggest is unbiblical, then that presents a different view from the scriptures, certainly a new view that we don't find in the scriptures. And I know that there's at least one person that I know of that will argue that Sheol, the blessed side of Sheol, was emptied by Yeshua when he took captivity captive, and he took them all up to heaven. People who've seen my own studies on this matter will know that the taking captivity captive, I would suggest, is they were in captivity to sin, and he took them into captivity to righteousness, as described in Romans 6. But regardless, this would certainly appear to be new doctrine. We don't have this idea of the chosen either being righteous or of angels coming down and their offspring becoming one with the sons of men. So factually, I would give it a 3 out of 10 as the most generous that I could possibly be, by really, really doing my best to try to conform all of these things to what Scripture says. And there are some things that I just cannot conform to what Scripture says, but that I will accept as new doctrine, as new truth, if we are to say that the Book of Enoch is Scripture. But as to an argument as to why we should make it Scripture in the first place, it's a 0, because we don't know whether or not those things are true. We can't say they are true, therefore they are true. It's a circular argument. Also, I would suggest that there is significant difference, at least in how things seem, between what the New Testament says about Sheol and about what Enoch actually says about Sheol and about the underworld, the punishment of angels, and the chosen in heaven, and all of those sort of things. It's significantly different, seemingly.